Welcome, everyone. We're very pleased to have this opportunity to talk to you about accounting and accounting technology in particular. Prabhat, why don't you go ahead and move forward a slide there, and I will keep saying next for next slides as we move through this. Our agenda today, where we're going, a little bit of history here. We're going to talk accounting methods, a little bit of what accountants traditionally do, where they've moved to digital accounting, what that really means. What does it mean to be digital accounting, have a digital accounting system? What are the benefits of that? So we'll walk through a little bit of history here for sure, because I want to share with you some of the things that I've seen in all the years I've been involved. We also want to move into challenges and talk to you about what businesses are facing in today's marketplace as it comes to information technology and accounting systems that are out there, and why you really need to consider that if you're still sitting on a lot of traditional or older accounting systems. Also, how to choose the right, what I consider the right accounting solution. And I will explain that, in my opinion, very detailed there. I hope to help you out there quite a bit. And then lastly, of course, what does a modern accounting platform look like? Let's go with the next slide. Accounting methods. Accountants have really, over the years, evolved. And let me say this first. Accounting might be very frustrating to many of you. And the reason it's frustrating is accounting is not a natural science, okay? Accounting is a man-made science. What they did years ago is they figured out that between people there's transactions, and for somehow in some way, we've got to value these transactions. We've got to come up with some method of valuing. And at first it was single entry. It was just, if I sold something, then I got to keep track of just what I sell. But they realized very quickly that when you sell something, you get something in return. So you lose that inventory or that product, whatever you sell, something comes back in return. And a very bright person years ago came up with what we now call double entry, or the double entry balanced accounting system. So it really is, it's give and take, and we've got to be able to record both sides of that transaction. And that's why a lot of cases, what you see in accounting systems might not make sense to you unless you're trained in accounting, because it's kind of a little bit foreign the way we record things. But the thing to keep in the back of your mind is it's just a way of balancing out a transaction of give and take. I sell a product, I get cash. Or back when they exchanged, let's say I had a great widget, I give you a widget and you give me a brick of cheese or something. Okay, look, it's all give and take, and we've got to be able to measure that. Well, to start with, many years ago, they started with these manual ledger systems. And I actually saw a lot of these early on. Manual, like run-write systems. They had carbon paper underneath them. You would write down transactions, and then that carbon paper would total up. And that would give you the other side of that journal entry, essentially the other side of that transaction, because you have detail through each line item, and then the summary of those would be the balancing the other side. And early in the 80s, all of a sudden, spreadsheets started evolving into our accounting world. That actually started off with something called Boeing Calc. Yes, the airplane company Boeing was the company that had the first spreadsheet on the market, followed very quickly by a commercial product, VisiCalc, and then it went to SuperCalc, Lotus 123, Excel, blah, 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 blah. But in a spreadsheet, you could do that a lot easier. And so a lot of people jumped into the whole spreadsheet world. That's not really that great, because spreadsheets are prone to errors and problems. So what happened was, way back when, even double entry accounting CAN systems started to evolve. In fact, one of the top products that kind of evolved out of this era right here was Peachtree. And I was blessed to actually know the founder of Peachtree and meet him and talk to him for a while. And really, he did have a great product at the time and at its time and place. And that set the standard for a lot of the products that followed. Let's try the next slide. Now, this is our eye test. If you can see everything on here, you're doing well. But we like to use this because this is where we are now. So I took you very quickly from manual ledgers to beginning accounting software to double entry accounting, and now here's where we're at. Okay, now look right in the dead center, and one left and one right. For most systems, that's all they focus on: accounting and general ledger, receivables and payables. That's where most systems focus. They might wander out and tag in a payroll. They might wander out and tag in a bank connection. Smart accountants over the last 10 years are doing bank links and integrations. That's a fabulous thing to do. But what we're talking about in today's world is accounting systems are sophisticated enough that you could have everything you see on the screen. For example, in your business, do you deal with people that travel and reimbursements? Well, far to the right, in the right-hand side of that slide, there's travel expense management. And what about sales and invoicing and order management? That's far left. How about detailed reporting and budgeting? That's upper middle there. Or bottom middle, warehouse management. Now, imagine an entire system all interconnected and talking to each other. So when an employee out there in travel and expense management, when an employee submits an expense report and it is approved by his manager, that automatically sets up the liability in the accounting and general ledger, and sets up that we have a payable to that employee, and sets up the expense of that travel all down all the categories that employee has laid out in that product, out there integrated all electronically without wasting time. Now, true story. One of the reasons I'm here at Zoho today is my prior business. We started using some products from Zoho. One of the first ones we used was Zoho Expense. And we replaced a product called Concur back then with that. And it was a great change because it was much more automated. It had great OCR and AI built in it. And that saved my business. We had 8 instructors and just tons of information out there. And our people just loved it because it saved them so much time. All right, let's go to the next slide. So what does that mean, this digital accountant? Well, let me explain. An historical accounting and historical basis, and I grew up in this early era, what we would do is we would come in, we would give you historical numbers and we would leave. Somebody said the role of a traditional accountant is actually after the battle. It's the people that come in after the battle and bayonet the wounded. That's kind of a gross analogy, but that's really true. They were coming in after the fact. They couldn't affect the battle. Okay? In today's digital accountant is one that is connected in real time, that is right there over your shoulder, helping you, ready, looking forward with tools, looking for issues and problems as they occur through alerts and notifications and other tools that come through these new digital accounting systems. And I remember when a lot of this evolved. Back in the day, Great Plains software, if you remember that name, was really a wonderful accounting software. And in its day, started doing more alerts and notifications. And that was a big deal. In today's accounting systems, that's like it should be. That's like a default thing that you should have in there. All right, let's move forward. So if you've got an older system, how do you move to this digital accounting? Where's your next step? Now, this slide I modified a few times. First, let me show you where this data is coming from. The source is kind of below the text in small text. The source of this is the Gartner Accounting Software Market Insights Review 2022. If you're not familiar with Gartner, they are a pretty well-respected big organization around the country that did a really big study on accounting software market. Their last big one was this 2022 we're referencing here. So it's a little old, but I think it's still pretty spot on. And what I did is I went back and I literally pulled exactly their text out of one big observation they had made there and chopped it so that I'm not including every country in the world here. I included the US and Canada in this number, and I chopped it, and I just wanted to share with you because I had kind of a hard time believing this, but this is what they reported and then I'm going to interpret it for you, okay? 45% of businesses in the US and 52% of businesses in Canada have adopted an accounting software in the last 2 years. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't have other accounting systems before that. What this means is, according to their survey, and the way I would interpret this with my background is I would say 45% of businesses in the US and 52% of the businesses in Canada have either upgraded, changed, or got a new accounting system in the last 2 years. And what that shows you, it shows you the unrest in the market. It shows you that people really are looking out there after the pandemic and saying, whoa, we really got kicked in the nose here. Our on-premise systems, and let me explain that. When we say on-premise, that means server-based in one building kind of place, not really easily shareable accounting systems. So on-premise systems really failed during the pandemic because they're not easily shareable. Most all of those you'd have to hook like an expensive Citrix server to, and then have people log in and dial in, or some people cheated and used a product called Go to My PC and other tools, only to find out those tools have huge security holes. And so they learned that what they've got to have is something that is more shareable, more remotely accessed with great security than what they had during the pandemic and other places. And I'm seeing a lot of this. So businesses really are taking a very hard look at their accounting and information systems and saying, first, is it mobile enough? Can I be almost anywhere and get to my accounting system? Secondly, is it providing us the right information that we really need? Or are we really going back to that historical, old, traditional, after the fact, okay, now we can't do anything about it, the battle's over, accounting system? Well, it's going on, folks. So there's quite a wave of people changing systems out there. Next slide. So what are the challenges these businesses are facing? Next. Well, challenges you have in this area, they're not new. Data entry always has been a challenge. And what we want automated data entry. We don't want manual data entry, folks, if we can avoid that at all costs. That's where you can have errors. That's also where you can commit fraud big time if you're not careful. And by the way, this is a session on accounting, and I would be negligent if I didn't warn all of you of the #1 fraud in North America, okay? Let me give it to you. Here it is. #1 fraud in North America. People has access to the accounting system. They go into the accounting system and they have enough control where they can go in and they can write checks to themselves. They write checks to themselves or their family member. Then after the checks are written and cashed, if they have enough access in the accounting system, they go back into the accounting system and change that transaction and change who that transaction was payable to a legitimate expense like Acme Concrete or lumber or whatever. And so it's buried in a legitimate business expense, but it was actually checks written to this person. That's the #1 fraud in the United States and Canada right now. And by the way, how do you pick up on that? It's really tough. About the only way to really pick up on this is every now and then when you browse through, and you should be browsing through canceled checks from the bank, even online. Every now and then you should be browsing through in your business canceled checks, looking to make sure those checks are going to legitimate businesses, okay? Either that can help you find it, or if unfortunately something gets way out of whack, then you'll be able to find it. My partner in my prior business was a practicing CPA. He had a client that lost over $2 million with this fraud, okay? And this was all done through one of our competitor accounting systems. You cannot do that in our system, as I'll talk about here in a minute. So accuracy means a lot. Also, people need good budgeting and forecasting. They need help. They need good tools, not just historical. Next. Managing and tracking of approvals. We need to be able to have a system that automatically sets up this approval and expense, purchase approvals, travel expense approvals, things like that. And a system that instead relies on manual emails or confirmations, and then you're digging back into the system looking for those other confirmations, just not good. That's historical stuff. You're going to waste a lot of time. Next. Bank reconciliations. And by the way, I chose that spinner on purpose. That might make a lot of your head spin. At times, it still makes my head spin. Why is it very important to reconcile the bank? For the reasons I just gave you. You need to make sure and have somebody that knows what they're doing, tie out those finances at least once a month, because often they will find problems by doing a proper bank reconciliation and tying things out. Proper means they don't just throw a number somewhere to bring it to zero to balance. They find out where the difference is and reconcile that. Now, if somebody doesn't know what I just said right there, they shouldn't be reconciling the banks. Okay, you need to bring in someone with more accounting knowledge to reconcile those banks. Monthly bank reconciliation will find problems for you. Next. Reporting is important. And that's not, I think everybody's got that, right? Are we getting the reports we need? Next. Is your system set up to help you when you get tax compliance issue or audits or problems? Is your system readily available to help you share data if needed when questioned? So we got to make sure we got the right kind of system here. Next. Now, given all that, why would they need to move towards the cloud? Next. I'm going to share a true story here with you. Zoho is pretty near and dear to my heart. I've been here about 5 years now. My son is a high school teacher, and in his spare time, he married a little gal from Mexico. She's my daughter-in-law. They got 2 little beautiful daughters, so I've got granddaughters. It's so fun. But his father-in-law is from Mexico and very good chef, and he actually served an LDS mission in Argentina, so he knows how to hand roll empanadas and deep fry empanadas and do them beautifully. They've got a little taco trailer that they run. Now, yes, of course, they're running on Zoho. Let me tell you how they manage their finances with ease running this little business. My son runs out and buys supplies for the trailer. All he has to do with Zoho Expense is capture those receipts and upload them. That's all he has to do. Get a picture of it with Zoho Expense, upload it, let it go. He has done this so much with Zoho Expense that the AI built in the back end of Zoho Expense automatically categorizes all that stuff correctly. Then they go through and they have all their incoming money come in through Stripe. So all their receipts and sales and all that comes in through Stripe. At the end of the month, he ties that together, hooks them together. And the end of the year, all he needs is a little bit of accounting help for journal entries, for depreciation, interest, a few things like that. He's done for the years. Finances are done. Taxes are done. He's done. That's it, folks. He runs an entire small business with essentially 2 or 3 different apps and does it with ease because they're all interconnected. Cloud-based, interconnected, running off his phone pretty much the entire time. Only time we go to laptops is for reports for the accountant or when he wants to kind of go and get into the business and see what's going on. It can be that easy. Next. Now, what are the benefits of going to a cloud-based system? It's collaborative, folks. You can have different people in there, different times in different areas. I remember we fought with this for years with different accounting systems. These apps, properly done, will integrate. They can scale quickly. So you had 10 or 15 people, all of a sudden overnight, a good cloud-based systems can scale immediately. Like, how many licenses do you need me to open up? Here we go. Why? Because you're not managing the server. This is not an on-premise situation where I've got to go buy a whole new server because I just hired 20 people. You leave that to the cloud accounting system, they take care of that, and it grows and goes from there. So from there to automations to much better insightful reports with different apps and everything tied together. This is a wonderful place to play with your whole suite pulled together. Next. So how do you choose the right cloud accounting system? Next. Well, is it really customizable? Can it help you do everything you need across there? Does it have features at a reasonable pricing. Is this thing reasonable, or is this thing extremely expensive? Is it secure? Do we have privacy? Now, folks, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit more later. But look, security and privacy are killer good. And oh, by the way, whew, saw that transition. You might have gone, whoa, what was that? I'll let you see it one more time too. We call it Meteor. It's kind of a fun little slide transition, but you got to make sure you got an easy platform that can extend out quickly, as we mentioned, when you hire new people or add new apps or do different things. Is it tax and ready, audit ready? We mentioned that one already. And do you have advanced real-time reporting? Now, this real-time is killer important. It's very important that we can get the stuff as it's happening so we can fix stuff. And here comes that Meteor again. Well integrated to the rest of the business ecosystem. Now, next slide, please. Essentially, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Our whole platform, our whole suite is well integrated. We like to brag on these 4 points. We have a consumer grade UI. Now, the first time I heard this consumer grade UI thing, I thought, because to me, when I read that kind of felt like I was flying in the back of the plane. That kind of felt like Coach. And then somebody explained it to me and said, no, Val, what we mean by consumer grade user interface, what we mean is the interface is so well designed that any user could pick this up and use it easily and understand it and run it. And so it's a very comfortable user interface. Oh, then I got it. Because I am a survivor in my prior business of having to use a cloud-based CRM product that was extremely cumbersome for like 8 years until we actually, in my prior business, moved to Zoho CRM. Another key reason why I'm kind of here. All right. So I use these products a lot before I actually joined this company. And that's why I can say they're right about that. You can pick up our products and pretty much with little learning, training, a little help on your shoulder, you're going down the road. What else? Contextual collaborations. What on earth does that mean? Let me tell you what that means. When you go and find an issue inside of our suite, you're able to collaborate with anybody out there, anybody in the market, and share information at the same time. Like I can go out and set up a meeting and ping somebody and say, here's the invoice I'm talking about. Let's talk about this invoice. And you can come in and join me on a Zoho meeting. I can show you the invoice, walk you through the transactions, give you everything. So I'm not like sending you files in email. I'm bringing it right into the conversation. That's contextual collaboration, where the system provides me all the information I need to walk in and handle the situation. Well connected. Yeah, we have over 55 plus applications. Now I say that and people kind of roll their eyes like, whoa, look, it's a lot. Let me say it this way. We have almost every business application you would possibly need, with the exception, let me tell you one category we don't have yet. We don't have fixed assets yet. Other than that, we pretty much have every application you could possibly need interconnected into our platform. And lastly, customer centric. Most products on the market, let me tell it to you this way. One of the guys that I work with, that I report to, one of my bosses, if you will, told me one day, he said, most of these products you're competing with, Val, have the wrong focus. They focus on the 2 most unreliable constituencies. They focus on their shareholders, okay? And then they focus on their management. And he's right. Most of them do. We're privately owned, and so we focus on our employees and we focus on you, the customer.